Okay. Hello, hello. What's up, what's up? How you pan the camera? How do we pan the camera? What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? Okay. Getting things set up here. Alright. We're live. What's up, y'all? Peace. Thank you. What's up, y'all? Peace. How y'all doing? Just starting these live videos. What's up, y'all? Live on Instagram too. Say what's up to Facebook. Instagram, say what's up to Facebook. Facebook, say what's up to Instagram. Okay. Today I'm gonna break down light, what it is. Alright, I'm gonna wait to see if some people join. Alright, before we get this started. There we go. Okay. Got a big lesson plan today. Alright. What's up, people? Alright, no one's joining yet. It's okay. We'll still get this started. Hey, what's up, y'all? Alright. So there's no one here.
You can pause your live for now.
So I guess I'm gonna just get this started anyway, and people could join in the middle.
Let me see if maybe this box is better.
Let's see. I'm trying to angle this camera right. What's up, y'all? Yesterday, y'all, like, what is light? What is that? Why does it even matter? I love you, but you're doing extra right now, seriously. That's craziness. Alright, I'll do my best. Okay. Okay, yeah, let me pan this camera over to so y'all can see what the hell going on here. Okay, masterclass. Let's start. What the fuck is light? Okay. So, in science today, okay, what they're going to tell you is light is a wave or a particle. Alright? And I'm going to demonstrate how that's wrong using science. Okay? And I'm going to use modern day scientists because we already see what's under the pyramids in Giza. We already know our ancestors knew this shit, alright? And since they destroyed a lot of the history, I'm not going to be able to name those people personally, alright? So, but for the people who rediscovered this knowledge, okay, we're going to break this down, and I'm going to show you how the ancients already knew this through symbolism, and we're going to break this shit down, okay? So, the first thing they're going to say is light is a wave, right? A wave, right? Or a particle, which they draw out like this, like a circle, or a particle. I'm going to tell you how this is wrong, okay? Number one, a wave isn't a thing, okay? So, number one, you can't point to one wave in nature and tell me what that is, okay? Because it's going to be either a wave of water or a fucking wave of wind, okay? It's not going to tell you what it is, because a wave is simply a description of motion. So light could move as a wave, but it can't be a wave, okay? And a particle. Light can't be a particle because a particle is just a vibration in a field, okay? So what does that tell you? That tells you that a field isn't a particle and a particle isn't a field, okay? So what the fuck is a field? Alright, because according to science, with this Big Bang, you know, these two atoms fucking collided, right? But where did these atoms come from? Okay? We're gonna get into that, but let's talk about why they don't get into that. Okay, when it comes to things that are not quantizable, okay, quantizable means a quantity, right? So if you could get a quantity of something, then you can mathematically motherfucking express that, okay? And not everything is mathematically expressible, okay, because there's things that are non-physical, okay? And non-physical things create all the physical reality, okay? And we're gonna demonstrate that today. I'm gonna demonstrate that for y'all today, okay? Just give me a moment. All right. Where do fields come from? What is a field? Okay, what is a field? That's a good question. What do you picture? Like a football field or something, like a stadium, right? That's a good question because science hasn't given us a good answer on what exactly a field is, right? A field is a disturbance within something deeper that's called chaos, which science calls the ether, which is something that was abandoned a long time ago according to science. Okay, so what is chaos? Chaos is the state of everything within its original form. So before there was order, there was chaos. It's this, basically it's pure potential and it's non-space and it's non-nothing. So picture, you can't picture it because it's non-physical, but it's like this sea, it's like a pond, all right? Think about a pond, an undisturbed pond. That's the ether. And until you drop a fucking rock in it, that's when you get the waves or the disturbances, okay? So that's a big thing in science because that automatically says that someone dropped a fucking rock in the pond, okay? And that's the big thing that they're talking about. Oh, that shit just started on its own. How? Where did the vibration start, okay? That's why I didn't want to ask these questions. But this is stuff that was already talked about. So let's talk about it, okay? What is the ether? What the fuck is that, right? What is that? Okay, I'm gonna draw this out for you. Alright. My little whiteboard right now is not erasing. Okay, so we're working on that. We got technical difficulties right now. Alright, so let me grab this other board. Why don't I present that for you? Alright, let me grab these other markers here. Alright, just give me 1 second. Alright, thank you, babe. Alright. What the fuck is the ether? Let me show you. Okay. Picture the ether as this dot right here. This is the ether. Alright. That's pure potential right there. Pure energy. Okay? Right there, y'all. You see this black dot right here? The black dot. Okay? That's very important. That black dot is the black dot they talk about when they talk about spirituality, and the black dot inside of you, that is also where every single vortex and everything manifests from. I'm going to show you how. Okay? So, from this dot, when it is disturbed, okay, when you disturb this dot, what happens is you create two fields, which are really one, okay? Yeah, this field right here, alright? I didn't draw it well, but that's the torus field, okay? And then you also get this other field right here, okay? Very important. You get that here too. Alright? You have dielectricity and magnetism, okay? Very important. What is dielectricity and what is magnetism? Okay, let me show you. Give me a moment here. Okay. Okay. Magnetism is space. Okay. How? Alright. Space. Okay. Magnetism represents magnitude, okay, which represents volume and mass and force and everything, okay? So when someone says mass, someone says volume, or someone says force, or someone says spin, they're really talking about the same thing when it comes to certain things, especially in quantum physics, Okay? Magnetism is the holographic universe. Okay? So, according to scientists, what they're going to say is magnets emit something called virtual particles. Okay? But particles are vibrations and fields. Okay? And virtual particles don't even exist. Okay? So that's a materialistic version of viewing reality. Okay? In reality, you can't grab a magnetic field because it's not motherfucking physical. Okay, so this is the holographic universe. This is the projection. Okay, dielectricity, okay, which will represent this, which is the hourglass shape, or also the infinity sign, or the figure 8. That's the power. Okay, that's the energy. Okay, so this is the projection. This is what we see. This is the power. This is what powers it. This is the power source, the battery. Okay? So, when scientists are talking about the electromagnetic field, they're talking about everything within magnetism. Okay? Everything outside of magnetism would be dielectricity, which would, in other words, would be cold light and electrostatics and other shit. That's point source energy. Okay, what point source energy is lines of force. So when they're drawing the lines of force, right? So you got here, right? You got fucking counter space, right? You got that, and then you got these protruding lines that come out, right? Like that, right? You got the right? You got that, right? You got that, and you got that, right? Then you got the other ones that go the other way, right? So you got that and that and that and that and that, right? That right there, the fucking dreamcatcher symbol, that's the geometry of what the fuck's going on, everything. Because everything in the universe is magnetic, spatial. Okay, that's the space. So everything takes the vortex shape. Okay, the vortex shape. Okay, like this, like this. Okay, everything in the universe takes this shape. You get this shape out of this. You see what I mean? Like that. Okay? So the dreamcatcher is the ancient's way of portraying that motherfucking geometry. Which one would be basically what Victor Schauberger would call implosions, right? So let's draw this out, right? You got this line right here. This line right here. This line right here. Right here, right? Let's do them out, right? Out, out, out. Right? I didn't draw that well, right? Then you got them going in, right? You got the ones, boom, 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 going in. Like that, right? Yeah, boom. 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 Okay. Implosion, explosion. Implosion, explosion. Alright? So you got one side, right, which is centripetal, right, which would be, centrifugal, which would be the magnetism, which is going out, right? So centrifugal divergence, okay? These things, these vortexes are diverging out, the space. The magnetism is pushing out the space, okay? In the vortex shape, all right? Then you got the dielectric, okay, which is centrifugal, which goes in, okay? So you got two different motions here in this, okay? And they also draw this out. Let me erase this real quick, y'all. All right. I'm gonna show y'all something. Right. And by the way, if y'all think this is my opinion, I'm gonna write down some names real quick, okay? Because this is not my opinion, all right? And let's start with that. Let's do some history on how the fuck we got here, all right? So we got a guy, right? Because we already know the ancients, right? They knew this shit. So I'm talking about the new fucking people, all right? That rediscovered this shit. All right? You got Michael Faraday. Okay? Faraday. All right? That's the guy that discovered motherfucking that electricity and magnetism are related. Okay? There was a guy in America that already discovered that, but this is who they fucking give credit to, and he was smart anyway. He's a self-taught genius, alright? So this man had zero motherfucking educational or formal education, alright? And he ended up being part of the Royal Society, alright? So Michael Faraday, alright? So he's the one that coined these terms, dielectric magnetism, all that stuff. Him in conjunction with other people. All right. So it starts with him. All right. Then we get down to people like James Maxwell. All right. He formulated. Oh, see, I'm sorry, guys. As a lefty, it's not easy. All right. James Maxwell. He formulated equations, all right? He formulated like 20 plus many equations, but nowadays it's down to 4, okay? 4 basic equations, right? He's the one, he took Gauss's work, Coulomb's work, he took Faraday's work, a bunch of other people, and he mathematically formulated that shit. And that's who Einstein uses his works till this day, all right? There's a few other people we're going to mention here, all right? Oliver Heaviside. Oliver Heaviside reformulated Maxwell's equations to what the fuck we use today. Alright, so the equations people use today when they use Maxwell's equations, which I'm gonna write out here soon. Alright, this is gonna be scientific. I'm gonna make it make sense, y'all. I'm gonna make it make mad sense. Alright. He formulated his equations, and that's the shit we use fucking today. Alright, so the 4 fucking equations for Maxwell's equations, he's the one who formulated that. He is a self-taught genius. He had no formal motherfucking education, okay? And he's the one who ended up formulating this shit, all right? Along with other things. He also predicted the ionosphere, all right? He also predicted gravitational waves before Einstein, okay? And it wasn't the gravity that Einstein was talking about, all right? So these people are the people who are fucking shaped electromagnetism, gave us the shit that we got till today, all right? So these are the geniuses, all right? Next up. Walter Russell. Another genius. Alright. Self-taught genius. Okay. He also teaches people how everyone has an inner genius within them. Alright. So anyone here saying, oh, trust the scientists, trust this. Everyone should be able to do their own research. Okay. Everyone has a fucking genius within them. Okay. And everybody has a chance to add or contribute to the world, okay? So don't be scared, all right? Because some of the greatest geniuses taught everybody that you could do this by yourself, okay? In conjunction with people, but there's no excuses, right? Right. Then, of course, we got Nikola Tesla, right? Nikola Tesla. We got Charles Steinmetz. Okay. And then people you should look up, like Eric David, alright? Because he breaks this stuff down. And he's one of the only people to recreate some of Tesla's works. Okay. I'm writing these people's names down so people look these people up so you know none of this shit is my opinion. Alright? And if something's my opinion, I will let y'all know. Okay? I will clearly say that shit if it's my opinion. Okay? So, let me show you. This diagram was created by a man named Charles Steinmetz. Okay? And it shows the magnetism and the dielectric field. Okay? So you have magnetic lines and you got dielectric lines. Alright? Of force. Alright, let me just see that. Alright. Dielectric like that. Dielectric like that. Dielectric like that. Like that. Right, then you got it more out. Right, even more out. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Boom, 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 right. Some shit like that, right? I didn't draw it out perfect, right? Boom. Right, but I'm not perfect, okay, y'all? Bear with me. Alright, that's a terrible rendition of what the fuck it is, okay? But these lines here represent the magnetic lines, okay? So these solid lines here, okay, let's do solid line, okay, represents magnetism. Alright? Magnetism, and then the dotted lines are dielectric, right? Okay, so these lines are converging in, the dotted lines, okay? And these are protruding out like that, And the circle, the outside circle represents the top motherfucking part of the vortex. Alright? And then there's a line here in the middle, which they call C, which would basically be if there was motherfucking, like, you got two plates here and shit, like, that would be, like, the middle point. Okay? Like, the middle point line between both of them. Okay? And shit. Alright? Like the capacitance, right? The maximum capacitance of the shit. Okay? So this, right? This diagram is what the ancients are depicting with the owls. Deeper than that, that's where the fertility cults ended up taking these symbolisms later. Okay? Even deeper than that, right? They took, the ancients knew about shit. Like, check this out, right? Now that y'all see these, alright, let's look at Walter Russell's version, right? Which will do this, okay? Right? And then he do this, right? Basically. Right? And shit like this. Right? Right? And then the solid line will represent radiation. Okay? And what is radiation? When something radiates out, right? Like something's like pushing out, right? Like radiation, right? And then you got gravity, right? The dotted lines would be gravity, right? And he described that as absorbing. Okay, like absorption, right? That. You see that, right? Alright? And then remember the dream catcher symbol. Okay? So picture that, right? And then picture like the dream catcher symbol, right? So you got like this, right? And then you got the lines going out. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then you got the other lines. You got this way. You got the other lines going this way. Like, whoop, 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 whoop. I did a terrible job rendering this, but y'all know the point, right? Boom. If you had that, right, and then the circle, boom, okay? And then you took a pyramid, right? So picture a pyramid, okay? Boom. But from the top. Now looking down on a pyramid, right? If you was to draw it out like this, right? Like picture the pyramids at Giza, right? It's an 8-sided pyramid, but it really looks like 4, right? That's the dielectric. Okay? So they're putting 2 dielectric forces on top of this force right here. Right? Because the coils under that create this geometry. And they put that on top of that. So they put the power source on top of the geometry. Alright? Y'all can see that? Alright? That's what our ancients is doing. They wasn't fucking around. Alright? And it gets deeper than this. Okay? I'm about to break this shit down for y'all. So what is a field? What is the ether? What is all this shit? Okay? So the ether is pure potential, pure chaos, okay? Pure potential, pure chaos, where all things manifest from, okay? Everything and nothing all exists within the ether, alright? Me and you are the ether. Everything is the ether. This is the ether. You are the ether. I'm the ether. Everything is the ether, okay? It's just being disturbed, and different pressures and different mediums create different motherfucking conditions, okay? So let's talk about how all this shit makes a motherfucking particle. Okay, because this ain't a particle, it's just a vibration in the field, right? So let's break that down. Okay. So, right, we're gonna do nine. This is the divine 9, the original 9 motherfucking frequencies and octaves that created everything. Okay, and they are portrayed like this. Alright. Now, in Walter Russell's chart, okay, there's 9 main octaves. And within these octaves, okay, are the other elements, but they come off as frequencies. And these frequencies come off as all the colors too. And then there's the 9 main that go up this cosmic tree, yeah, okay? And when we talk about the cosmic tree, it exists everywhere, okay? So the cosmic tree exists within the torus field, okay? Because if you draw the torus field, okay? That energy going out, right? This line right here, that's the cosmic tree, okay? That connects all the other motherfucking multiverses, okay? So the tree, that's the axis to all the dimensions, okay? So this is the same axis point, okay? Y'all see this? All right? And every element forms within this, okay? The cosmic serpent, all right? And then you could picture this as space. And then you could picture this part as counter space. But let me go a little deeper into that, okay? Because I'm very vague at this moment. All right. So how do we even get to a particle? Okay. Well, light, right? In the electromagnetic frequency, you have spectrums to the light, right? So you have infrared, right? So you have infrared light, right? Which is a very long wavelength. And then it goes all the way up to gamma, which is a very fast wavelength, okay? So basically, once you get to gamma radiation, there's a point, okay? A point where the energy, there's like this energy wall. So picture this vortex, right? This vortex of energy, right? And it's moving, right? And if it's moving along, right, in this wave fashion, right, these waves hit this energy point. So they call it a standing wave, all right? And when this wave breaks the energy barrier, it materializes into something called a proton, all right, which is a vortex of energy, all right? A proton is the only particle that exists in nature, all right? All the other particles are just frequencies, all right? They don't materialize into physical matter, okay? And that was taught by the greatest geniuses, okay? Because J.J. Thomson, the guy who discovered the electron, said one electron is 1 unit of dielectric potential. What does that mean? Since it's the power, it's the energy, it's the radiation, it's how much, okay? So when you have multiple electrons, you have multiple units of potential energy, okay? Spinning in a fucking vortex like this, okay? So you can almost picture a cell, right? You can almost picture, right, like an atom, like these vortexes of energy spinning in different ways, okay? But the ancients depicted that from the top down. So if you were looking from the top down, it would look like the fucking flower of life, or it would look like the tree of life. All right? You see what I mean? Okay? So that's how they're depicting these energies. All right? But since scientists have like a billion terms now, and ancients didn't, they depicted it using symbology, because symbols bypass your motherfucking conscious mind, and you still get this shit. All right? Because it'll reach those fucking deeper fucking parts of your damn brain. All right? And your brain works on waves too, because we know this shit. All right? So now, why does that matter? How does that shit make sense? All right? Give me a second. I'm about to make all this shit make sense, y'all. All right? I'm about to make it all make sense. All right. So, you have this particle, right? You have this particle, right? And then you have these fields, right? So these protons and these neutrons and these electrons, only the electrons exist, all right? I mean, only the proton exists as a particle, okay? So when you combine a neutron field, okay, with an electron field, you create something called a hydrogen atom, which is the battery to the entire universe, okay? And every single atom, right, an element, is just a hybrid version of this right here, okay? So you change the frequency on this guy, and that'll create the different elements within this, okay? And the first few octaves weren't hydrogen, okay? So there are noble gases. Those are the ethers and stuff that they're talking about here. Okay, so once we get up to hydrogen, right, there's other forms of hydrogen, even lower forms, okay? And when it comes to Earth, right, when this carbon-based, right, carbon-based is somewhere in the middle here, carbon-based, that's where we exist, in the center axis, okay, of all existence, okay? And then once the vibrations change and the octaves change, that's when we get into the nuclear stuff. That's when we get into different stuff, okay? So this is the cosmic tree, all right? How everything connects, all right? Very important. Give me a second now. Okay. Let me erase this. Give me a second, y'all. Okay. So how is light? Not a particle and not a wave. So what is it? It's a dual mix of all these fields, okay? So the dielectric field creates the magnetic field, okay? Which creates the electric field, okay? So in science, they like to use the word positive and negative charge, which should be the same thing as saying expansion, compression, implosion, explosion. It's the same thing, okay? So they'll draw this out basically like this, right? They'll say this is a magnetic field, right? You got the North Pole and you got the South Pole, right? Then, if you was to do just the South Pole, then you would get some shit that look kind of like this, right? Right, that's some shit that's going on here. Right, this circle here. Right, and this and that, right? This here, what's happening? In science, what they're going to tell you is that this is repelling this, okay? But in reality, like the diagram before, the electric field, right? Where you got the circles, right? The circles. And you got the lines, right? The dotted lines, right? The dotted lines, right? The dotted lines. Right? Alright, you got these, right? The electric field. Okay? So you got convergence and divergence. What's happening here, right, is that once the ether is disturbed, that's what creates all the movement, right? And all the motions and all of that. So the magnetic field is inverting those forces. So what you think is attraction and repulsion is actually the opposite. Okay, so what's happening here is the field is returning to its original motherfucking function. Okay, so that one's a hard one to grasp, but we're gonna go through that a little bit and we're gonna fucking make it make sense. Okay, so dielectricity is the power. Okay, so in the Greek terms, because that's how these damn scientists like to do, right? So let's get to the math on how the fuck did we get to this point here that motherfuckers think shit is a particle and a wave and shit like that, right? How the fuck did we get to this point, right? So Psi, Phi, I don't fucking know the exact which one because I don't really pay attention to these Greek dudes because a lot of this shit is wrong and a lot of this shit is right. Then you got the older Greece that's black and then you got the newer shit. So, you know, that shit's a tricky subject. So you got this symbol right here, right, which represents the total electrification, right? This is what electrification. This is what engineers use, okay, nowadays. And they use these symbols, right? So you got this one right here, right? This one's for magnetism, right? So you can see this. That actually goes into the middle like that, right? Let me redraw that one. So you got this one, and this represents magnetism, okay? So you almost got like this torus field, right? And this is the total magnetism. Right? Then you got this guy right here. And that represents the total dielectricity. Okay? That also equals Satan, aka Zeus, aka dielectric point source motherfucking energy. Okay, fuck his name. I don't even want to spell it right anyway. Alright? So, in order to derive motherfucking all these forces, right? These electrical engineers use these symbols, okay? In their motherfucking things when they're talking about these things, okay? So, if you wanted to find the total motherfucking magnetic motherfucking disruption within the field, okay? You would just basically do this, right? And then you would go this over this, right? Which is basically the total electrification, the total dielectricity equals the motherfucking total magnetic motherfucking induction, right? So when you times this and this, you can find the total motherfucking flux, which is the total disturbance of the magnetic field within a motherfucking system. Okay, and these fucking things are interchangeable. Okay, so you go to people like motherfucking James Maxwell, right? Now, James Maxwell, right? So let's write one of his equations here, right? So you got force, right? Force basically equals Q, right? And then a little q, right? And then you got like this 4, right? You got like 4 pi, right? Everyone knows what pi is, right? So 4 pi, right? Then you got like this symbol here that looks like an E and it's not, right? Then you got this squared, right? So boom. So basically, what this equation would say here, right, is force equals this electric charge, right? So you got like an electric charge right here, right? And it goes out in all directions, right? If it's positive, right? If it's negative, right? You know how, radiation and absorption, right? So something is positive, it fucking radiates out in all directions, right? So you got this, right? So that, right, Q plus a little force, right? So if you got like a charge, right, you got this motherfucking shit here, and then you got another little one right here, that will fuck with this guy, right? So that is the little q. So if there was a little charge here, right, and you fucking times that by 4 pi, right, and then this symbol right here, right? So this is epsilon, right? Which basically represents permeativity, right? Which is like the amount of motherfucking like your ability to store fucking energy, right? And then you got R, right, which is resistance, and you square that, right? So basically, what these dudes are talking about is fucking inductance and fucking capacitance and resistance and shit like that, all right? So when it comes to the universe, those are the fucking principles that dictate the universe, because everything is light, okay? So everything comes from this point here, all right? Scientists can't explain how the fuck particles, the fucking original particles came to be, no matter what. They all came from the ether. They were disturbed, all right? We're going to show you how, okay? I'm going to show you how right now. Right. So after a while, right, what scientists rediscovered was some cool shit, right? They started making antennas and shit like that, okay? And they discovered that if you make a fucking antenna, right, and then you make them even like this, the shit will work out, but it wouldn't work out like that, right? So what they fucking ended up realizing was, for some reason, if they used the fucking golden ratio, it would work out for some reason, and they didn't know why, but it fucking works out that way, okay? Right? And then each one is 60% less than the last one, right? 60% less, right, than the last one. Okay, so this guy's 60% less, and this guy's 60% less. It creates fucking standing weight. So basically, what happens here, right? When you use the golden ratios, you create a fucking standing wave right there. So you can picture this, right? Just right here, right? And you create this fucking wave, right? Like over it and over it, right here, right? You can picture that over this, right? And then this angle here, right? From that point, right? From that point to this point here, right? Would be 36 degrees, right? And what scientists figured out, right? These engineers, was that if you were to cut a circle into 5 pieces, right? So you got this guy here, you got this guy here, then you got the 2 legs, right? What they discovered was that from this point here, yeah, to this point here, was 36 degrees, okay? And you know what's important about that is this right here is how they're fucking gaining power, right? From these antennas, right? So they're gaining signals, they're sending signals and receiving signals, right? Boom. Y'all see this? Hold up. But do you see what shape it is? Let me show y'all if y'all don't see it. Whoa. Only the most powerful manifestation fucking symbol, right? Our ancients wasn't fucking around, y'all. The symbolism's all there. Okay? Let me break that down even further. A little further. Okay? Because maybe people don't see it yet. Alright? I just want to show y'all that the ancients knew what the fuck they was talking about, okay? And people are just rediscovering fucking knowledge, okay? Let me show y'all something. I got something written down here just for y'all, bro. Alright, so y'all seen that, right? So y'all seen what I just drew? Right? Do that. Right? What does that look like, though? Does it look something like... I'm not the best drawer, y'all, so please forgive me. But I did my best to draw a fucking leaf here, and I did terrible. But that equals leaf. Deeper than that, right? Picture this. See that, right? That's a coil, okay? So when they put 2 coils, right together, then you got that point right here, the coil, right? Tree. Coil tree. Coil tree. Coil tree. Antenna, leaf. Antenna, leaf. Pyramid. Dielectricity. Y'all seen this yet? Alright. Check this out. So you got the solar system, right? And then they tell us this is the fucking sun, right? Then these are the planets, right? Right? Picture that. This is us looking at it like that. From the top down. If you were looking at it from the side, that would be this. Right? And then the planets would be at different points. And then when they would line up, would actually be this point right here on this axis. Right here. Okay, the same tree. That's the axis. Okay? So that's just alignments we're talking about. Okay? And that's how the planets look, the solar system, from this way. That same vortex motherfucking energy. Okay? And then deeper than that, okay? Right? Picture your eye. Right? It's your eye, right? It's your eye. Right? You view the universe, right? The universe views you, right? Plane of inertia. Deeper than that, your eye. Right? In your head. So now there's a fucking head, right? That's your fucking head. Well, fucking weird ass head, bro. Okay? He's happy though. Okay? Light goes to the eye, enters the pineal gland. Boom. Okay? Deeper than that. Let me show y'all. Let me show y'all what I mean exactly. Alright? That's this shit. This shit about to get crazy. How many people familiar with Bobby Hemmitt's work? If not, y'all gonna have to go check him out to understand this next part. Alright? But you got the electric field, right? Boom. An electric field, right? So you got the charge, the positive one, right? Which is going to radiate out, right? Boom. You got the electric field. Radiates out, right? Okay? Stick with me here. Okay? Let me show y'all real quick. Let me show y'all some math real quick. I want to show you how I got here real quick. All right. How did we get to this point? All right. Okay. So there's 8 poles in electricity. There's 8 different types, right? 8 different polarities of motherfucking electricity, right? Okay. So this is how Steinmetz and Charles Steinmetz, this is how people still use this shit to this day. All right. So they got K, right? So let me draw this out though. Let me draw this out though the right way, so I don't do this twice. Okay. So we got K right here. K. We got negative K, and we got a positive K. Okay. And what does K represent? What does K represent? K represents oscillation periods. Alright, so let's put that down. K equals oscillation period. Okay? We're gonna have an H, okay, which basically represents the engineers when fucking like energy or something is entering a transmitter, right? Entering a fucking transmitter. Right, so let's just put that entering transmitter. Okay? Then we got 1, okay, which basically is like the fucking battery. Okay, so let's put battery. Right? And then we got a J, which is like the capacitor. Okay, capacitor, capacity, capacitor. Alright. So you got a +1, and you got a -1 here. Right? You got a +1 here. You got a -1 here. Right. Alright. This is how engineers fucking draw this shit out, right, y'all? Not this exact diagram, but I'm about to show you how it makes sense. For the ancients, how the fuck they did this shit. But I'm using modern day math, because this is what the fuck we got to our disposal. Okay? This bullshit. That works. Okay? Right? Y'all see that? Alright. Now let me show y'all something. This is a picture by Bobby Hemmitt. Okay? And this represents the black dot inside your medulla oblongata. Okay? The black dot. Okay, y'all? Let me show y'all something. Okay? See that? You see that? You see that? Plus 1 minus K minus J minus H minus 1 plus K plus J plus H. Okay? Now, when scientists use a fucking plus sign, they're usually talking about space, which is fucking magnetism. Okay? Fuck that. Mag. Y'all know what the fuck I'm talking about. Okay? Minus is usually time related. Okay? Time is just a derivative for how the fuck they come up with the terms energy. Okay? So, if you had a fucking wave, right? If we drew this out, right? The fucking wave, right? This represents the wave function, right? Which is also dielectricity, but in fucking modern day now, this is how the fuck they draw out the wave function. Okay? Right? So if you had a wave, right? And it's going over here, right? You got this fucking wave, right? You got this guy right here, right? They can measure from this point to this point. And they can also measure from this point to this point, from any fucking point they want. Okay? This represents the wave function. These, they could use fucking X or T. Right? That would be time or distance or the fucking disturbance within motherfucking everything, right? And then they got equations that they derive shit from. Okay? So they'll have fucking equations, right? They'll have like this. They'll have like this, right? They'll have like D motherfucking this over dx equals motherfucking K, right? With a cosine because they talk about fucking angles and shit, right? Of the fucking waves. And you got this kx minus wt, right? Which basically, what the fuck they're talking about is D is like the fucking disturbance, right? It means disturbance, right? You got this, which is, they're going to represent that as wave function, right? And so you got disturbance in the wave function, and you got the disturbance in motherfucking time. And that would equal K. And what K equals is fucking, alright, see, this is going to, now motherfuckers going to go crazy, alright? And I'm going to go crazy too. But K basically equals fucking 2 pi over epsilon, which I know. I lost me too on that one. Alright. What the fuck is epsilon? Right? Epsilon just represents like the length of the wave. Alright, so how fucking big a wave is. So we could call that wave. Okay? Wave size. Okay? So 2 pi over the wave size gives you K. Alright, so you have K, right, which is 2 pi over the wave sign, right, times the fucking angle of the wave of where it's going, right, and fucking Kx, right, which X would equal the fucking time, right, and then you got W, which is fucking, basically, it's 2 pi times the frequency, right, so fucking W equals 2 pi times the fucking frequency, right? So, basically, y'all don't have to understand none of this fucking shit. But what the fuck they're saying is they use these motherfucking equations to derive these motherfucking wave functions, right? And they could tell you how big the fucking wave is and which fucking way it's going and all that shit, right? Because they could also apply it, right, in dimensions, right? This is what they call dimensions, okay? Which is not, okay? And I'm gonna show you how the fuck they got this shit all fucked up, okay? Because they're going off these motherfucking equations and they're messing up time with just derivatives on how the fuck they get energy in fucking electrical motherfucking electrical engineering and shit like that. Okay, so let me demonstrate what the fuck I mean real quick. Okay, So, basically, how they derive this shit, right? So if you see something like this, right, they'll say plus 1t, right? Which, that basically means going forward in time, right? Plus 1, remember? Forward in time. Okay, so t represents time and the plus is distance, right? So it's spatial, right? So forward, right? Forward in time, right? Forward time. Okay, then you got this minus 1t here. And what would that represent? Reversal of time, right? Reverse time. Okay? They also have a spatial motherfucking equation, right? So to do plus 1, right? Plus 1L equals motherfucking outer space, right? Like space, like outer space, right? Like space, okay? Space, right? Which is measured in centimeters, okay? So you do space in centimeters, okay? This is how they used to motherfucking derive equations until Steinmetz changed it to light seconds, okay? Anyway, right? Then they will have this minus here, right? So you have minus 1L. Okay, I wrote that wrong. Hold on. That's my thing. Okay, so that's a plus 1. That's a minus 1L would equal counter space. Alright, so that's counter space. Okay? I'm going to make it make sense. Alright? So, remember we was talking about earlier about magnetic induction, stuff like that? Alright. If you want to find the density of the total induction of either field, the magnetic, the fucking electric, this is the fucking equations they'll use. Okay? So, they'll use motherfucking this shit, right? Which represents magnetism, right? This I, right? With this thing and this thing, right? That's magnetism, right? Over a specific fucking area equals motherfucking the density of motherfucking the induction, right? Of the magnetism. Of mag, right? Induction, right? Per centimeter squared. Per centimeter squared. Okay? Now, I'm going to make this all make sense right now. Okay? So, let's go with the dielectric, right? Which they also use for wave function now, but we know that's dielectric. Okay? So, dielectric over the area would get you the total density of the dielectric. Alright? Total electric of the die, okay, per centimeter squared. Because that's how they used to go with centimeters. Alright? Before they built all these fucking big ass power grids now with these lines that connect for miles. Alright? They didn't have that yet. Okay? So these are how they derive these equations. Now if you're trying to find the total fucking electricity, right? It would be the total electrical, right? Induction, right? Induction, right? But it'll be per centimeter to the 4th power, okay? And this right here is why scientists think the universe and time is the 4th dimension. The universe has 4 dimensions because of this right here. Okay? That's it. That's why Einstein took all this shit and said, light's just a wave and a particle, and what is a wave? What the fuck is a wave? Let's start there. Okay? So what is all these things? Right? So, let me wipe that. Right? Y'all got that? Y'all got that so far? You see the black dot? Right? Okay. Let me make it make sense. Right? Okay. Okay. You have the person, right? So let's show a little head. Show a little fingers, a little arm. Oh my God, you're a crazy looking guy. Alright. Crazy looking guy, right? I cannot draw, right, y'all? Look at that. Motherfucker's thumb is pointing to his face. Okay. Boom. So they say you have 7 chakra points, right? Boom, 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 boom. Right? Then you got 7 color spectrums, right? So you got the red one, which is a bigger wave. Right? Then you got like a smaller wave. Then you got like this even smaller wave. And smaller, right? Boom. Right? But these energy points actually protrude outwards, right? So if you're standing, right? Like this is you, right? Boom, and you're fucking standing, right? Right here. Ooh, right? I don't even know how the fuck to draw this. Just put your hands somewhere here, right? Boom. You're just standing, right? Holding your hands weirdly as fuck, right? Like that. And shit. And so this energy is actually protruding out in a vortex like that, right? To the universe. Okay? I'm not going to show you how to connect to portals right now. This is how the fuck it works. Okay? So, picture a pond of water. Right? This is water. Right? And then you would have dropped a rock into this pool of water, right? And then you got like these things that splash out, right? Like that, right? And then shit that goes onto the sides, right? Like that. Right? Y'all see that? Okay. Now picture that, but sideways now. Picture that, but sideways. Okay. Okay. So, if you could picture dropping a rock into a pond, that's the same way that motherfucking portals work. Okay? So, when your energy and the other energy meet, it creates a fucking disturbance. Alright? So, in other words, right, when this rock enters this pond, it also creates a field on this side. Okay? Like this. Okay? Right? Which actually create this symbol, which people are probably familiar with. Okay? I'm sure y'all seen it somewhere before. Okay? Okay? So, your mind and the universe meet there. Okay? And this is the portal geometry. Okay? Right here. That's why in the ancient map, if you look at the occult maps of the Freemasons, they always have east at the top. Okay? Because north and south is actually the way we're facing, like that. And east would be above us. Okay? So that's how it is, like that. So north, the portals will actually be sideways like that, not like this. Alright, so we picture it like this because this is how we live. But this is really how it is, like that. It's sideways. The east is over our fucking head. Okay? That could be represented in another way too. Let me show you. Okay. So I have this line, right? Right. Then you got like the universe, right? And it creates this melody. Boom. And it reaches this point, right? Where it's gamma radiation, right? So it actually be the opposite, right? So it actually move in the opposite way, right? So let me portray it, right? Okay. So boom. It would start off. Get smaller, right? Boom. Once it gets to gamma radiation, it materializes, right? Boom. Then the next vortex happens. Okay? But deeper than that, that geometry ends up becoming this geometry, which is actually this geometry. The DNA. Okay? So this represents that on the cosmic scale. Okay, that's how everything connects. So these, right, portal points, these would be the space, right, the magnetism. Then you have the plane of inertia here, which would be the middle. Then you have the other octaves, right, remember, right, the points, the 9 octave points, right, the divine 9, okay, the original 9 motherfucking creative female forces, right, that fucking shaped all reality, okay, boom, that would create the motherfucking octave scale, okay, but the reason it's like this is because the lines in the middle, so we're seeing the top standing waves. That's why everything look like waves, because we're at the top standing. But there's this part on the bottom, which is counter space. And that's where dielectricity exists. Okay? So dielectricity is not bound by the electromagnetic motherfucking frequency, which basically everything that exists within magnetism, right? The maximum rate you could disturb that field is the speed of light. So there's no speed of light. Alright? Light isn't an emission. Okay? There's nothing emitting light. Okay? I'm not emitting sound. I'm not emitting sound when I speak. I'm disturbing the air molecules. Okay? Which in turn is creating a fucking disturbance, right? So I'm disturbing, right? I'm not emitting nothing. Okay? So that's very important. Alright? So you got the universe, right? You got the counter space, right? The part you can't see. That's the point source energy. It just mirrors it. Alright? But really, this and this could reach here in no time. Alright? So scientists are basically, what they want you to believe is the particle here, right? And you have a particle on the whole other side of the universe, right? So you have a particle here, you have a particle here, right? This is the whole other side of the universe. And they're saying somehow these motherfuckers are connected by a magical physical line, which makes no sense, okay? Because we know a particle is just a vibration in the field, and it exists within the same field as this particle, okay? So this is why scientists can't make sense of this shit, is because they're ignoring the field that everything exists in, because they only care about particles. Okay, so if it's not a particle, they don't give a fuck about it, because they can't quantize it. Okay? This is very important. This is the whole universe, how it works. It's fields. Fields of energy. Fields of energy we can't see, but everything is happening. Okay? Everything is happening. Alright? Within these fields. And vibrations in these fields create physical fucking matter. And the more you shape, the more you get protons, and the more you up the vibrations of the protons, right? So basically, right, to get another element, right, you would have a fucking proton, right? So let's actually make the proton a circle. And every free neutron turns into a proton after 17 minutes, right? So a neutron is just a vibration, right? Boom. And then an electron is also a vibration, right? Boom. Okay? So if you add a proton to an element, that's when it becomes a different element, y'all. And then the amount of electrons, right? So the amount of motherfucking frequency. So you got this hydrogen atom, right? So so you vibrate the ether, okay? You vibrate this ether, it creates fields, a torus field and a fucking dielectric field, all right? And then these fields, right, within this magnetic field, it creates these electromagnetic spectrum, right? Right? And then once it gets to this point, the highest point, gamma radiation, that shit fucking hits this energetic wall where it literally physically creates a fucking particle. Okay? And then that particle, right, once it hits certain frequencies and vibrations, the more fucking vibrations, it adds more motherfucking protons and creates more motherfucking elements. Okay? So everything is just a fucking vibration. Okay? Y'all see that? And that's how they depicted it back in the fucking days with these symbols. Alright? Same fucking symbols. Alright? So, this was a lot more brief than I thought it was going to be. I could probably make another part to this. There's so much more I would like to talk about. I'm not really sure how I would talk about it. I gave y'all a list of names of people to look at for a reason, y'all. None of this shit is my opinion, right? I'm gonna write a book on this stuff if people don't get it. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. I hope people learned something. In the end of the day, in the scientific community, people use terms, all right? They use a lot of terms, all right? And we do stuff like, say, quantum physics proves spirituality, okay? And quantum physics is based off the same bullshit science that's telling you light is a fucking wave and a fucking particle, okay? So when you hear motherfuckers talking about the dual slit experiment and motherfucking quantum entanglement and quantum physics is based off faulty premises which have correct math equations, okay? But math equations could be interpreted different ways. That's why Einstein has a different explanation for his equations than Maxwell, okay? But if we really wanted to break it down, I could demonstrate how Einstein didn't even prove nothing or even come up with nothing. And we could do that right now real quick, all right? So we'll do that. That's how we'll end. We'll end by demonstrating I'm not bullshitting, and this shit's already, anyone can look this shit up. Alright. Just give me one little moment, because I got all of that for y'all. I got a whole bunch for y'all, man. I got a whole bunch. And people don't say it a lot, but alright. So, we know that Einstein, right? We know for sure that he graduated graduated. Why am I not spelling graduated, bro? I be thinking and not even thinking about spelling. I'll be too busy in my thought. Alright. Graduated. Oh, Jesus Christ. Just roll with me, y'all. He graduated with the lowest, well, at least he could fucking spell. Graduated with the lowest GPA in his class. Okay. In his engineering school. Okay. We know that for a fact. Okay. We also know that in 1905, Einstein dropped what? Special relativity. Right? Right. Also, quantum theory. Right? Right. You try to take credit for it, right? Also, I believe it's also 1905, right? Yeah, 1905. The photoelectric effect. Right? Smart man, right? He did all this stuff, right? Wow, this guy must be freaking amazing, right? Alright, let's address some of these points. Okay. 1905. But in 1898, a man named Henry Poincaré, I cannot say his name right, came up with special relativity. Anyone could look this up. Special relativity. Anyone could look this up. Henry Poincaré, 1809. 1905, 1898. Which one's older, y'all? Y'all do the math. Okay? In 1900, right, Max Planck and Wilhelm Wien came up with quantum. Okay? So, when Einstein published his quantum 1905, these guys already published it in 1900. 1898, 1900. 1905, 1905. Now, earlier in 1905, before Einstein came up with his photoelectric effect, there was a guy named Philip. Well, this guy has a long name. Should I write his whole name? We'll do it. Alright, we'll do it. Philip Edward von Leonard? Yeah. Oh, no. Philip. Jesus Christ, brother. Okay. Edward Anton von Leonard. It's like this dude got two names. Leonard came up with the photoelectric effect. Actually won a Nobel Prize. Einstein's wife studied under this man. This man did not mention Einstein once in his paper, nor did Einstein credit this man at all for anything. Okay? I'm going to tell y'all something, folks. When we talk about a mid-tier engineer versus the greatest engineers who motherfucking gave us every motherfucking 100% of our understanding of electromagnetism and light and everything to this day, besides the ancients, let's talk about modern day. It's not hard to figure out what's true and what's not. So I presented this little information so the collective could pick up on this shit and actually study the right names and stop using terms like quantum fucking physics and shit. As soon as the motherfucker say quantum physics, you should already know he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to this scientific shit, and at least knowing what the fuck. Because if you don't know what light is, how the fuck could you experiment on it? You see what I'm saying? So they have good equations, they're doing experiments, they're coming up with all these technologies and shit, but their explanations behind this shit is not good, alright? Anyway, y'all, I'm gonna cut it short, alright? My baby's holding the camera, I feel bad. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, and I hope this reaches the right people. Peace, y'all.